What's up YouTube? Today we're going to talk about how I transformed my calendar to follow a digital minimalist approach. If that sounds interesting, let's get into it. Okay, first thing to mention is that I'm using Google Calendars using Apple and Google devices. I'm using it on my MacBook, Google Pixel smartphone, and web browsers, wherever else I have access. So that's really a good solution to be able to access your calendar on any device, not being restricted by using Apple devices or something else. The big advantage of Google Calendar is that it works across all devices, unlike Apple Calendars, which is restricted to sync on Apple devices. So after you select your calendar provider, there's still the option to make several calendars for different things. So I divided my calendars into things like private, which basically is everything that's not into one of the other special categories, which might be sports, vacation, work-related stuff. I think like chores, which are coming up regularly, and that really helps you divide your tasks and events into different buckets. So do you know about that experiment where the teacher asks, is that bowl or is that glass full, and he puts a bunch of rocks in it and it looks full, but it's not really full because he keeps adding sand or smaller rocks into it. And that's pretty much the same principle calendars follow in terms of these calendars and categories. So first of all, you want to kind of define the big parts in your life and transform these into calendars. So it might be sports, it might be YouTube for me, it might be work, it might be meeting up with friends, and then filling up regular events in there, and then filling the empty spaces which are still available with things that come up like doctor's appointments, getting a haircut, which are kind of able to be anywhere in between. So having said that, time boxing is a great technique to make sure you follow through on tasks, and keeping these tasks regular also helps you stay consistent. So for me, I put on a calendar event every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to work on YouTube. Monday maybe planning the video, Tuesday maybe shooting or recording the video, and Wednesday might be cutting and uploading, editing and uploading. So that way you always can just take a look at your calendar and see that's what I gotta do today, and keep consistent and be accountable. So what I've been doing is I always went through my calendar the upcoming week on Sunday and made sure I filled up all these empty spaces that I didn't have anything planned for yet. For most people out there, you probably have a huge portion of your day dedicated to one certain thing, your occupation, your school, your university life. And for people that have that situation, it might make sense to have a different calendar for that as well, or have a whole different calendar provider. So for me at work, I'm using Outlook because that's what we're given, and I don't want to check that in my free time. So I just assume that Monday to Friday, I usually don't have time between 9 and 5, and kind of keep that blocked in my head. Could of course also set up a time block, or just mark these days where you're off work and you have time to fill. So that leads to me sometimes having to check my work calendar to make sure I have no meeting at 5 p.m. and can leave early or something. And that happens from time to time, but I think it's justified because I don't want to have all my work events in my private calendar, and that's kind of the trade-off that I'm taking. Apart from that, one huge help that I found was a tool called Calendly, which allows you to schedule events in your calendar, or give free time of availability and let other people schedule events in your calendar. So for me, I've recently been applying to new jobs, and I realized that a lot of the time it takes forever to schedule an initial interview. So it might be something like, tell me your availability. I give them availability, they say, that doesn't work for us, do you have anything else? I give them something else, they say that might work, and I say okay, and they say cool, and then they send out the invite, and then I accept, and then they say cool again. And it could just be one exchange through Calendly where you give your availability and they select a time that works for them. They don't have a system in place already, and that can save you so much time, and it also leaves a very professional impression and leaves the employer thinking that you value your time. Another big advantage of using Google Calendars for me is using my Google Assistant to create new calendar events and reminders, which are also integrated into Google Calendar. So I might say something like, remind me to take out the trash tomorrow at 10 a.m. and just get a calendar reminder created right there, and that works across my smartphone and Google Home, and is something that makes things much easier. So it's just like having a digital assistant that takes away time from you and just lets you create these by saying a sentence, which is amazing. I mainly check events on my smartphone because I've got a Google Calendar widget integrated in my home screen on the first page. It tells me when my next events are coming up, how much time I have until that event, and sometimes get reminders if it's an important one. So that works well for me, but I also check my calendar on the web if I'm at work and don't have my smartphone at hand or something, and on my personal Mac, maybe on the web or using Apple Calendar app. I also keep a physical to-do list apart from that calendar on my desk to just work on small tasks that are too small to make them a reminder or calendar event. I also have this small wall calendar because it's something physical that I can keep next to my door and just look at every day, and I just use it to kind of sum up very important things, which are usually all day events because I don't have enough space to write times on there. So it might just be interview day on 18th of May. It might be in there, and I see I have 7 days left or something and can plan when I have study. That's been pretty much it for this video. I don't use my calendar religiously. I just like to keep organized and know what are my priorities, help me stay consistent and block off time. That is really important. For example, producing YouTube videos like right now. That being said, you can also use other calendar providers or voice assistants to do most of the things I mentioned right here. I don't use my calendar religiously. I just like to keep organized and block off the most important time slots and create categories to keep me consistent. I hope this video was informative and you could use some of the tips. If you have any others that you might want to mention in the comments down below, feel free to do so because viewers might stop by and find that tip helpful. That's been it for me today. I'll see you all next time.